So, good afternoon everyone. I am Trixie Anyamba from Block 1K and this subject is reading and Philippine history. And this afternoon we're going to discuss about the making sense of the past, historical interpretation, and multi-perspectivity.
Yes!
So I know that all of us are aware what is history is. But let us do some recap for us to proceed and acknowledge what history is really all about. So history is the study of the past, but a non-contemporary definition is centered in how it impacts the present through its consequences. According to Geoffrey Burklaw, an English historian, defines history as the attempt to discover on the basis of fragmentary evidence. He also notes the history we read, based on facts, is strictly speaking not factual at all, but a series of accepted judgments, such as judgments of historian on how the past should be seen, make the foundation of historical interpretation. So si Geoffrey Burklaw is trying to tell us nga ang history is nagmugna siya sa isa kagamay or unconnected evidences or information which historian is try to connect in order to discover some important information or detail about the past. So gipang connectang mga ginagmay nga mga information para mahimo siyang details sa past. So he also notes nga ang librong atong gibasa about history saying that it based on facts is strictly not factual at all. So dinote sa ni Geoffrey Burklaw nga ang libro nga atong gibasa about history is strictly not factual at all. Dili daw siya kaning factual nga naman. So because it's all about or based on the judgment of historians. So ingan siya is it's because kuno is nag-base lang siya sa mga judgments sa historians. However, history can be manipulated. This can be achieved by creating events that actually did not happen. Bali, kaning naing mga kaning information nga ma-manipulate o ma-achieve kuno nga by creating kaning imaginative events nga kaning actually wala daw kuno nahitabo. Bali, gilisdan ang mga events. Ang uban facts is ginakalimtan na lang. So that is why historical interpretation is based on the historian's judgments on how the past should be seen. And this historical interpretation actually serving as the historian's helping tool in describing, analyzing, evaluating, and creating explanation of past events. And so I hope you've understand something of what really Geoffrey Burklaw defines about the historical interpretation. And so let's move forward to the Code of Kalanti.
Yes!
The Code of Kalantiaw. The Code of Kalantiaw is a mythical legal code in the epic history Maragtas. The Code of Kalantiaw was created by the chief on island of Negros, Dato Bihindara Kalantao on 1433. My understanding about the Code of Kalantiaw is it is a act that very important sa unang panahon and it is very authentic. It is authentic kanang tinuod nga balaod nga na-implement sa unang panahon, and it holds significance for Negros because it is considered one of the earliest known legal codes in the Philippines. And also the Code of Kalantiaw have various aspect in our government, which is na ay mga lain-lain nga paglantaw sa mga katawhan sa unang panahon, which is kanang connected gyapon ni sa kanang political kaning Code of Kalantaw kay kaning nagkuali siya sa kanang it's about a act or balaod nga dapat i-implement para ang mga sinaunang tao sa una kay matagaan og proteksyon laban sa mga tao kanang mangharas or embarrassment sa society. That would be all my understanding about the Code of Kalantaw.
Making sense of the past. Historians utilize facts collected from primary sources of history and they draw their own reading so that their intended audience may understand the historical event, a process that is essence. Historians actually gather together as much relevant information on the topic as possible. Specifically, they gathered facts, information, or data and then handed out their own understanding for the audience to easily and distinctly understand the concept about the past, and historians may rely on evidence in order to support different conclusions from our primary sources. The premise is that not all primary sources are accessible to a general audience, and without the proper training and background, A non-historian interpreting a primary source may do more harm than good. A primary source may even cause misunderstanding sometimes, even resulting in more problems. So primary sources are valuable to historians because they give insight in which historical figures understood or internalized what they experienced, their place or significant in history, and give historians an understanding of historical figures or historical figures' opinions. So dapat, ang mga historians lang ang pwedeng mag-interpret ng isang primary sources or data. If someone non-professional or not an historian interpret a primary sources, it may only lead to misunderstanding, more problems, and confusion. Kaya nga tinawag sila na historian because they are really passionate in history. So kapag ikaw ay ignorant and unknowledgeable about history, then you don't.
Ang aking mga kabata is a poem about the love of one's native language written in Tagalog. It is widely attributed to the Filipino national hero who is Jose Rizal, who supposedly wrote it in 1868 at the age of 8. The poem shows that long before he sprouted the first fruits of his youth, he had already placed distinguished value in the importance of one's mother tongue. According to some verses of the poem, sa poem, that if a nation's people wholeheartedly embrace and love their native language, that nation will also surely pursue liberty. He likens this idea to a bird soaring freely in the vast eternal sky above. Language here is likened to a people born into freedom. In Rizal's time, Filipino were held in a slavery by Spain. Rizal, however, believed that if the people treasured and loved and used their mother tongue, it would become a symbol of relative freedom and of identity. And naasad sa poem nga nagpasabot is that he who does not love his own language is worse than an animal and smelly fish. He further adds that Filipino must work to make the language richer and likens this endeavor to a mother feeding her young. The native tongue is now compared to a helpless child that must be nurtured in order to grow and flourish. And in the last part of the poem, it says there that these last lines may very well be referring to the Alibata or the Old Filipino alphabet, whose characters are unique in every essence, finding no likeness in any other alphabet. The Tagalog language, according to Rizal, has letters and characters of its very own, similar to the way other elite tongues do. These letters, however, were overthrown by strong waves and lost, like fragile, fickle boats in a stormy sea.
Yes!
Multiperspective. This can be defined as a way of personality development, culture, and societies from different perspective. Mao ni siya ang mga pamaagi kung giunsa pag-describe or pag-story ang mga panghitabo sa una diri sa Pilipinas or history sa katong mga panahon panila Rizal. Dili ra sa isa ka pamaagi, daghan or laylahi nga pamaagi ang ilang gigamit para makabalota unsay nahitabo sa una.
Multiperspectivity. This means that there is a multitude of ways by which we can view the world, and each could equally valid at the same time, equally partial, and contains preconceptions.
Multiperspectivity as an approach in history, we must understand that historical interpretation contains discrepancies, yung magkakaiba, contradictions, yung magkakasalungat, yung informations, and ambiguities. Ambiguities means that it's not a really clear information for what something is about and are often the focus of dissent.